Some of the smartest, calmest-looking people you know are secretly running a storm behind their eyes. You've probably been told to stop overthinking, stop replaying the conversation, stop analyzing the text message, stop imagining every version of what could go wrong. And maybe you've tried. You've told yourself to just relax, just let it go, just stop thinking about it. It never works. And there's a reason for that. It's not because you're weak-willed or dramatic or too much. It's because you've been trying to solve the wrong problem. Overthinking isn't a thinking problem. It's this: a feeling that arrived too fast and too strong, and your mind trying desperately to slow it down. Let's talk about what's actually happening. The misunderstanding. Here's what overthinking looks like from the outside. Someone sitting quietly, maybe staring at their phone, maybe a little distracted in conversation. From the outside, it looks like a mind that's too busy. Too many thoughts, too much analysis, too much noise upstairs. So the advice everyone gives is aimed at the thoughts. Clear your head. Distract yourself. Think about something else. But picture this. Someone sends a text. Nothing dramatic, just a normal message. And then they read it again and again. Did that sound weird? Should I have used a different word? Is that emoji too much? An hour disappears and they've reread 11 words, probably 30 times. From the outside, that looks like excessive thinking. But underneath it, something else is running the show. It's not a thought problem. It's a feeling that hasn't settled yet. And the thinking is just the visible part, the part we can see of something happening much deeper. If that sounds familiar, you're not broken. You're not a flawed thinker. You might just be a deep feeler whose mind hasn't figured out what else to do with all that feeling yet. Where it actually starts. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. Overthinking doesn't start with a thought. It starts with a feeling. Think about it like this. A tiny spark ignites first. Something happens. A friend doesn't text back right away. A comment lands strangely at dinner. Someone's tone shifts slightly on a phone call. And in that instant, before a single conscious thought forms, something in you reacts. A spike. Fast, sharp, disproportionate to what actually happened. And then the thinking begins, not as the cause, but as the chase. Your mind is trying to catch that spark before it turns into a wildfire. Why didn't they text back? Did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? Should I text again? Should I wait? What if they're upset and just not saying it? That's not your mind being dramatic for no reason. That's your mind trying to manage a feeling that already arrived before you had any say in it. This is why just stop thinking about it fails every single time. You can't out-argue a feeling with logic because the feeling was never created by logic in the first place. The target everyone aims for, the thoughts, was never the actual source. The nervous system angle. So why does this happen more to some people than others? This is where it gets interesting. Some people are wired, genuinely physiologically, to process emotional and sensory information more intensely, not imagining it, not being too sensitive in the dismissive sense people mean when they say that. Actually experiencing it more. Imagine two people sitting in the same room hearing the exact same sentence in the exact same tone of voice. For one person, it lands as a small ripple, barely noticed, gone in seconds. For the other person, that same sentence lands as a wave, a real physical wave that takes minutes, sometimes hours, to pass through their system. Same signal, wildly different internal experience. If you're the person who notices the half-second pause before someone answers, the slight change in someone's tone that nobody else in the room seemed to catch, the tiny shift in body language during a conversation, that's not you being paranoid. That's a nervous system that's simply picking up more signal than most people's do. This isn't a character flaw, it's wiring. And once you understand it as wiring instead of weakness, something shifts. You stop asking, why am I like this, and start asking, how do I work with this? There's a psychological concept relevant here, going back to John Bowlby's work on attachment. Our nervous systems are, in part, built around detecting safety and threat in our environment. Some systems are simply calibrated to detect more, faster. That heightened detection isn't a malfunction. In the right context, it's actually an advantage. Deep noticing, deep empathy, deep awareness. It just comes with a cost. The volume knob on feeling doesn't have an easy off. Why the mind keeps circling. Now here's the piece that explains the loop itself. Why the same argument, the same regret, The same imagined conversation keeps playing on repeat, sometimes for days. Picture a hallway, the same door over and over. You walk forward, and somehow you end up back at that same door again. That's what rumination feels like from the inside. Here's why it happens. When a feeling isn't fully processed, when it doesn't get to run its full course and complete, the mind treats it like unfinished business, something incomplete. And the mind doesn't like incomplete. It creates a kind of internal tension, almost like two conflicting realities trying to resolve into one, something psychologist Leon Festinger described in his work on cognitive dissonance. The mind wants resolution so badly that it will replay the same scene over and over, searching for the version of events that finally settles the tension. So you replay the argument from 3 days ago, searching for the perfect thing you should have said. You rehearse the difficult conversation in the shower for the 5th time, finally landing on the right words. Except the conversation already happened, and it's over. This isn't a personality defect. It's a loop that hasn't been allowed to close, and loops that haven't closed can close. That's the hopeful part. This isn't permanent. It's incomplete. Think of it like an alarm system that never learned when to turn off. It's not malfunctioning out of nowhere. It's still sounding because, as far as your nervous system is concerned, the danger hasn't been marked as over yet. The alarm isn't broken. It's just waiting for a signal it hasn't received. Living with it differently. So what do you actually do with all of this? Here's the part that matters most. The goal was never to feel less. If you're someone whose nervous system processes emotion intensely, trying to switch that off isn't just difficult. It's the wrong goal entirely. The depth you feel things with is also where your empathy, your attentiveness, your ability to notice what others miss comes from. The real shift isn't about feeling less. It's about letting the feeling finish instead of getting stuck reanalyzing it. Here's a small, concrete way to do that. Instead of asking, "Why do I feel this way?" which sends you straight back into analysis, straight back down the hallway, try simply naming what you feel, out loud if you can. I feel anxious right now. I feel embarrassed about that. Nothing more. Why does this work? Naming a feeling engages a different part of the process than analyzing one does. Analysis keeps the loop open because it keeps searching for something more to figure out. Naming gives the feeling somewhere to land. It tells your nervous system, this has been acknowledged. It doesn't need to keep sounding the alarm to get your attention. It won't stop the feeling from happening the next time. That's not the point. But it can be the difference between a feeling that runs its course in 10 minutes and one that runs on repeat for 10 days. The hallway doesn't have to be a loop forever. It can open into a straight path. Not because you stopped feeling deeply, but because you stopped fighting the depth and started letting it move through you instead. If there's one thing to take from all of this, it's this. Overthinking was never really about your thoughts. It was about a feeling that showed up faster and stronger than you knew what to do with, and a mind trying its best to manage something it was never given the tools to finish. You're not too much. You're not broken. You're not a flawed thinker. You might just be someone who feels things all the way through, and once that loop is allowed to close, that depth stops being something you fight and starts being something you carry with a little more ease. If this topic resonated with you, I explore it much more deeply in my book, where I explain the psychology behind it and offer practical ways to better understand yourself and others. If you're interested, you'll find it linked in the description. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Psychology for Dummies. Every week, we explore the hidden psychology behind everyday thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, making complex ideas simple, practical, and easy to understand. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.